But it's crazy when people see a headline that says Joe Rogan shocks fans becoming Muslim, and they immediately jump into the comments like, what? No way, man. Joe's losing it. Or, bro, Islam, isn't that too strict for a guy like him? And I get it. I totally get it. Because for most people, when they hear Islam, they think of something foreign, restrictive, maybe even intimidating. And when they think of me, they think of the guy who's smoking cigars with Elon Musk, talking about UFOs or debating psychedelics with scientists. So, yeah, it sounds like a wild mix. But here's the thing. I've always been fascinated by truth, by meaning, by what actually holds weight when the lights go out and all the noise stops. That's why I have 3-hour conversations with monks, scientists, comedians, MMA fighters, you name it. I'm chasing understanding. And whether you like it or not, Islam keeps popping up in those conversations. Now, am I sitting here saying, yes, I'm 100% Muslim, guys, convert right now with me? No. But what I'm saying is I've started to look at Islam differently. I think a lot of people need to. The shock factor. So let's talk about why people get so shocked when they see Joe Rogan and Islam in the same sentence. It's because people build boxes in their minds. Joe Rogan? Oh, he's the MMA guy, the comedian, the dude who jokes about elk meat, the guy who drops F-bombs, the curious stoner philosopher. That's the box. In Islam? Oh, that's prayer rugs, mosques, Ramadan fasting, women in hijabs, rules about everything. That's the other box. Society tells us those two boxes should never overlap, but life is messy. Humans don't fit into boxes. And the more I've actually looked into Islam, not the Fox News version, not the meme version, but really listened to Muslims explain it, the more I realize, damn, this is a whole system of life. Not just a religion, discipline and freedom. One thing that blew my mind, Muslims don't see discipline as a prison. They see it as freedom. That flipped my brain upside down. Think about it. We live in a culture where freedom is marketed as do whatever you want, whenever you want. You want to drink till you black out? Freedom. You want to binge Netflix till your brain melts? Freedom. You want to scroll TikTok 12 hours straight? Freedom. But is it really? Because here's the reality, that kind of freedom makes you a slave. You're a slave to dopamine hits, to addictions, to impulses. Islam comes along and says, no, real freedom is mastering yourself. Real freedom is praying 5 times a day so you're not just floating through life. Real freedom is fasting during Ramadan to break the chains of gluttony. Real freedom is saying no to substances that control you. And I'm like, that's hardcore. That's also kind of beautiful. Fasting in Ramadan. You guys know I'm obsessed with fasting. I've done podcasts with doctors about intermittent fasting, autophagy, how the body repairs itself when you don't eat. I've sat with guys who fast for 72 hours just to push their limits. But Muslims? They've been fasting for 1400 years, every year, for a whole month. No food, no drink, from sunrise to sunset. And they don't do it for biohacking or to look shredded for Instagram. They do it for God. And that hit me, because in the West we chase health, longevity, six-pack abs, but Muslims fast for meaning, and they get the health benefits as a bonus. That's discipline married to spirituality. Community and brotherhood. Another thing people don't get, Islam isn't just about personal rituals, it's about community. Brotherhood. When I've been to gyms or MMA events, I've felt that sense of tribe, like we're in this together. But Muslims, they've got it on another level. They line up shoulder to shoulder in prayer, rich or poor, black or white, CEO or janitor. No VIP section, no backstage pass, just human beings standing equal before God. Tell me that's not powerful. Tell me that doesn't crush the loneliness epidemic we've got in the West. You know, that epidemic where everyone's got 5,000 Instagram followers but nobody to call when they're crying at 2 a.m. Islam says you're never alone. You've got God and you've got the Ummah, the community. That's deep. Misconceptions and media. Now I know people are already typing, but Joe, Islam is oppressive. Look at the news. Look at extremists. And yeah, I get it. Every religion has extremists. Every ideology has people who twist it. Christianity had the crusade. Buddhists in Myanmar have violent extremists. Even atheists. Look at Stalin. Humans mess things up, but what about the everyday Muslims? The ones raising families, going to work, praying, giving charity, treating people with kindness. Why don't we ever talk about them? Why does CNN only show the worst 1%? When I actually sit with Muslims and hear them talk, they don't sound oppressed. They sound grounded. They sound like they've got a compass in a world where most people are lost. Death and meaning. This one really shook me. Muslims talk about death like it's real, like it's coming, like it's the one thing you can't escape, and they actually prepare for it. In our culture, we hide death. We Botox it. We filter it. We pretend we're going to live forever. Muslims? They wash their dead with their own hands. They bury them in a simple shroud. They remind themselves this life is temporary. And man, that's not depressing. That's freeing. Because if you really believe life is temporary, you stop chasing stupid stuff. You stop obsessing about the next iPhone, the next car, the next flex on social media. You focus on what matters, your soul, your family, your actions. That's powerful. That's humbling. Prayer is meditation. I've had monks on the podcast talk about meditation. I've done float tanks, DMT trips, you name it. And prayer in Islam, it's basically meditation 5 times a day. But it's not just mindfulness for your own brain. It's mindfulness directed to God. It's surrender. And surrender is something Western culture hates. We're all about control, ego, my truth. Islam says your truth doesn't matter. There's the truth. Submit to it. That's hardcore. That's also strangely peaceful. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. When you say Muhammad in America, people either think of some caricature from the news, or they don't know much at all. But the dude was a shepherd, an orphan, a man who built a movement that changed the world. He didn't live in a palace. He didn't eat like a king. He patched his own clothes. He prayed at night till his feet swelled. He forgave people who tried to kill him. When I read about that, I thought that's not a warlord. That's not a dictator. That's a leader. That's a human being people followed because of his character. And if billions of people love this man, maybe we should stop mocking and start listening. Where I fit in. Now am I saying I'm ready to grow a beard, hit the mosque, and start reciting Arabic? I don't know, man. Maybe, maybe not. But what I'm saying is this. Islam deserves respect. Muslims deserve respect. And maybe, just maybe, the West could learn something from them instead of always painting them as the other. And if me saying that shocks fans, good, because maybe shock is what wakes people up. The deeper leap into faith, identity, and the search for truth. So let's just imagine this. Joe Rogan actually becoming Muslim. People hear that and they think, no way, that's impossible. Joe's too wild, too free, too unfiltered. But let me tell you something. When you spend your whole life chasing truth, you can't be afraid of where it leads, even if it leads you to something your audience never saw coming. The Shahada moment. For those who don't know, the way someone becomes Muslim is simple. It's not like a 12-week course or some ritual in a cave. It's literally one sentence. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. That's it. You say that, you mean it with your heart, and boom, you're Muslim. Now imagine me, Joe Rogan, saying that on the podcast. Maybe with a Muslim guest sitting across from me, guiding me through it. Can you picture the headlines? World's biggest podcaster converts to Islam. Twitter would melt down, CNN would scramble, YouTube clips would explode. Half the internet would call me brave, the other half would call me insane. And that's fascinating, right? Because it shows how powerful those words are. Just one sentence. But it has the weight to shake people to their core. Lifestyle changes. So let's play this out. What would change in my life? First thing, alcohol. Gone. And look, I've talked to enough scientists to know alcohol is poison anyway. We glamorize it, but it's a wrecking ball to your body, your brain, your relationships. Islam bans it. And honestly, I'd probably be healthier without it. Next, diet. Muslims eat halal, kind of like kosher for Jews. You gotta make sure the animal is slaughtered in a humane way, blood drained, and God's name mentioned. It's about respect for life. And you know me, I already hunt my own meat, butcher my own elk. I respect where food comes from. So that part, that's easy. Then there's prayer, 5 times a day. And here's where people freak out. 5 times? Joe, you can barely keep a gym schedule. But think about it. Each prayer is like a reset button. Morning, noon, afternoon, sunset, night. Forces you to stop, breathe, and remember what matters. We're already addicted to checking our phones 100 times a day. Why not check in with God 5 times instead? And fasting, man, I already told you. Ramadan would be intense, but I'd embrace the idea of an entire month of discipline, empathy for the poor, breaking fast with community. That's powerful. The fan reaction. Now let's be real. If I converted, half my fans would bail. They'd say Joe sold out, Joe went woke, Joe's brainwashed. But the other half, they'd lean in, because whether you love me or hate me, you know I'm authentic. I don't say things to be trendy. I don't follow a script. If I did it, it'd be because I truly believed it. And maybe that would make people curious. Maybe some MMA fan in Ohio or a college kid in London would go, wait, why did Joe do this? Maybe I should read about Islam. That ripple effect, that's what scares people. Because when someone in a position of influence shifts, the culture shifts. Western fear of Islam. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why does the West fear Islam so much? It's not just about terrorism, it's deeper. Islam challenges the modern Western lifestyle. It says no drugs, no casual sex, no interest-based banks, no living just for yourself. That's the opposite of the consumerist culture that thrives on selling you cravings. If people actually lived like Muslims, praying, fasting, giving charity, putting family first, the billion-dollar industries that feed on loneliness and addiction would collapse. So yeah, of course there's resistance. Of course Islam gets painted as scary because it threatens the system. Spiritual growth, on a personal level, here's the real kicker. Islam would force me to confront my ego. And let's be honest, ego is the biggest drug out there. Fame feeds, success feeds it. Having millions of people listen to you every week that can make you feel untouchable. Islam says nope, you bow down, forehead on the ground, and admit you're nothing without God. That's humbling, that's terrifying, and that's exactly why it's powerful. Conversations I'd have, man, the podcast episodes that would follow would be insane. Imagine me sitting with Andrew Huberman, talking about the neuroscience of prayer, or with Lex Fridman digging into the philosophy of surrendering to God, or with Muslim scholars breaking down the Quran verse by verse. It wouldn't just be religious talk, it'd be science, psychology, spirituality, history, all merging in this one giant tapestry, and I think people would eat it up. Death, legacy, and afterlife. Here's where Islam really hits me, the afterlife. We joke a lot about death on the podcast. We talk about consciousness, simulations, maybe reincarnation. But Islam is clear. You live, you die, you get judged. Heaven or hell, no sugarcoating. That makes you live differently. Because if you really believe you'll answer for everything, every joke, every deal, every time you hurt someone, you can't just drift. You've got to align yourself with something higher. And as a father, that matters. Because at the end of the day, what do I want for my kids? Not just success, not just money. I want them to be grounded, to have a moral compass, to not get lost in the chaos of modern life. And Islam, it gives you that compass. Why fans should care. So why should you as a fan care about me flirting with Islam? Because it's not about me, it's about asking yourself, where are you getting your meaning? Are you filling your soul with endless scrolling, substances, distraction, or are you actually building something inside that lasts? You don't have to become Muslim tomorrow, but maybe, just maybe, you should start asking the questions Muslims ask every day. Who am I? Why am I here? What happens when I die? Because ignoring those questions doesn't make them go away. The ultimate shock. So yeah, maybe it shocks people to think of Joe Rogan becoming Muslim. But maybe the real shock is this, that in a world drowning in noise, the clearest signal might come from a place we've been ignoring all along. And if that scares you, good. Because growth always starts where comfort ends. Closing thoughts. If I ever take that leap, it won't be because of pressure or politics or image. It'll be because after years of exploring everything, science, psychedelics, philosophy, comedy, fighting, I found that the answers I was looking for were already written down 1400 years ago in the Quran. And maybe, just maybe, that's the biggest joke of all, that we search the world for meaning, only to find it in a book sitting quietly on millions of shelves waiting for us to pick it up.